Hey, good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's session. My name is Abimbola Abikoye, and I am the founder of Revamp Brave Network. And with me are my lovely, beautiful guests, Nasrin El Amin from South Africa, Chinwe Adidu, the climate finance negotiator, and Esther Chibinye Fabo, and then me, the moderator for this event. First, I would like to say Happy International Women's Day to all the women all over the world and the men who have also supported us in ensuring that we do what we have to do as women. We also take up spaces and also actualize our goals. So today, the International Women's Day is a day that's been celebrated all over the world, year from year on. And this year is about for all women and girls equality, empowerment, and support. And today we'll be celebrating this day with the theme accelerating action for gender equality. And I'd like to introduce our guests and also line our events for today, explain how we'll be running our session, and then we'll dive into the conversations for today. It's going to be an interesting conversation because I have power women in the house who have been doing a lot of things both globally and locally. So first we have Najreen. Najreen is an environmental sustainability practitioner working within the area of climate development, policy, and communications, both globally and internationally. She has immense experience in international institutions, as well as she being the founder of Surge Africa, an organization that works at the intersection of policy, media, and resilience, both in Nigeria and in Africa. And her work spans diplomacy, strategic media, where she develops programs and initiatives to seek to bridge data and advocacy gap in Africa. Welcome, Nazrin of Such Africa. Say hi to our guests today who are present.
Hi everyone. Thank you for having me. Very excited to be here. Thank you.
Awesome. So I'm going to go over to Chinwe Uluwatoyi Adidu. She's a senior scientific officer at the National Council on Climate Change Secretariat and a climate youth negotiator under the CYNP program, representing Nigeria at various COP conferences. With over 9 years of experience in climate change, she's an expert in agriculture, forestry, and other land use, as well as climate finance. She has received various presidential prestigious awards, and she's here with us to speak to us on some of the hot topics about women, climate change, climate action. You're welcome, Chinwe Adijo.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Glad to be here.
Awesome. Yeah, awesome. We're equally happy to have you here. And now, for the last guest, we have Esther Fagbo. Esther Fagbo is a passionate environmentalist, partnership manager, and an HR lead dedicated to sustainability, corporate collaboration, and human capital development. As the head of partnership at Recyclers, she manages high impact collaboration with Unilever, Nestle, Sahara Group, and other leading institutions, formulating leading initiatives that has created jobs and improved recycling assets. Welcome, Esther, to this event. So, Esther will be joining us soon due to a few work emergency. So, we hope to hear from her and hope to get a lot of things from her. So each of our guests will be taking us through a few topics. And after introducing these topics based on their expertise and their knowledge, we'll be asking guided questions to our guests, to our speakers. And then we're going to throw it open to comments from the floor, from people on LinkedIn and all the people joining us. So I'm going to give the floor to Najrin to take us through women leading climate action, resilience through local solutions. Because I know that Najrin is a local person, but I mean local, somebody who has had immense work ensuring local communities have access to relevant climate-related innovation, action, and inclusion that they need. So welcome, Najrin, and the floor is over to you.
Thank you, Abimbola, and hi everyone. Again, very happy to be here. So, I wanted to sort of touch base a bit about, women leaders in the space and how they bring sort of their own thought process when it comes to designing and implementing local climate solutions. And I think for me, speaking from experience, it's always about what are some of the most eminent issues affecting us as a community and as a society without having to look very far away. Because, there's this famous quote, charity begins at home and all that. But also, it's the fact that we have lots of other socio-economic, socio-cultural issues as it relates to climate change. And I think it's left for us to look at what are the most pressing things that we can look at addressing without having it being very complex to us. So when it comes to, of course, women leadership and how women are able to design solutions to these things, I think for me the most important thing as an individual, and also having to work and see what other women do their magic, I think for me it's definitely having to witness women having a sort of forbearing vision, in the sense of being able to see beyond what is right in front of you to devise strategies for the future. Not everybody can be able to sort of see that there is a drought in place, but the immediate solution is not just for us to be able to provide water for the people, but that we need to design long-term solutions so that that drought does not occur again. So I think this is one, because women in general sort of think contextually and holistically. And of course, we display more mental flexibility. And also in terms of thinking about how we use data and synthesize it and then try to connect it with real life solutions. So of course, there are also other qualities that we can look at when we're talking about women when it comes to the way that they design solution, in terms of good communication, flexibility, and other social skills that we have. So generally for me, I think it is sort of in our nature as a women, as women, when it comes to these issues, that we think more contextually and more holistically in terms of how we design solutions, especially as the grassroots. So yeah, that's pretty huge for me. The fact that we can definitely see beyond what is in front of us and be able to think maturely about how to address issues, especially when it comes to gender rights, social equity, and also financial capacity or financial independence. Yeah. I think you're muted.
Oh, thank you so much, Nazrin, for the wonderful insights that you've given us into the intro to your topic. And I can say for a fact that it's been fascinating trying to work with women, ensuring that they have that spaces that they need to have, and also identifying their pinpoint area to ensure that we're giving solutions the right way. So before we begin to ask the question that we want to ask, we would like to bring Chinwe into the stage to also speak on our own topic, which would be on um, women driving change, importance of women inclusion in climate action. So Chinwe, over to you. We want to hear your perspective, how women driving change and how they can be included in climate action, given your experiences working at the core of policy and governance in Nigeria.
Thank you so much. And like I said earlier, I'm happy to be part of this. At least I see that I can make impact on the International Women's Day. Thank you once again, Abimbola. And so for me, I have this framework when I try to address an issue. So we define what the problem is, and then we'll start to deep dive into the solution. And so for me, I started by looking at who is a woman. And we realized that over time, people have seen or defined women as caregivers, not just in raising children, but also in supporting the family emotionally. And so you start to ask yourself, how does this translate into leadership? So you find out that being a caregiver expands across having empathy, having emotional intelligence, staying resilient, and adapting to different circumstances. And you see that in climate action and you talk of policy, you realize that these are the skills that are needed for us to actually drive policies that affect women. So, for example, we have the issue of empathy. Let's say empathy, for example. You find out that women have empathy. So it means that they understand the feelings of others, and this can help them begin to drive and advocate for policies that affect the vulnerable groups, and vulnerable groups like the women and the children. And so you find out that that happens, and that is one of the importance of including women at leadership. Then you look at emotional intelligence. You look at multitasking, the ability for a woman to multitask across family, profession, for example, religious activities. You see that these are the skills that are needed also at the leadership level, especially when you look at climate issues and policy, because you know that climate change is multifaceted, cross sectoral, and demands skills that requires one who is multi-talented and can multitask across different issues. You also look at conflict resolution. You find out that a woman has the skill of having of active listening. You're able to listen, you're able to articulate, you're able to resolve conflicts. And you find out that climate action generally has all of these issues. And so we need skills like this to be able to handle the complex nature of climate change at every level. And so for me, I see that having women at the helm of affairs is actually very important, because women have been able to gain these skills over time as a result of being able to handle both family issues, professional issues, and whatever it is that you call it. And they're able to drive policies. For example, you see Greta Thunberg, and you see how they're driving climate policy issues that affect young people, affect children, and affect women. And if you deep dive also into facts, you realize that we have some facts that shows that women are actually very successful when it comes to leadership positions. So for me, I would say that I look forward to a time where we would not have female leaders, but just leaders, where we do not have to discriminate between this is a male leader and this is a female leader. I look forward to that time. Thank you so much, Bingo. You're muted. You're muted.
Thank you. Anytime I have to like spotlight you as our guest, I get muted and then I forget that I'm muted. And that's because we have like lots of power in the room. Um, like um like I was saying before, it's quite interesting that you've broken it down into three different aspects, using emotional intelligence, using dispute resolution, in buttressing your points. And I also like reference to what Najrin has also said in terms of how women should be working collectively, how people can, tag along with some of the value propositions that we have to give, particularly local women who have immense local knowledge, but then they are not being leveraged the way that they should. And I'm so happy that you've brought a different perspective to this as well. So bringing the two of you to the stage now. Um, yes, bringing the two of the most powerful women on the stage now. I would like to also ask a few questions, and I'm going to start with Najrin. My first question for Najrin would be, what unique strengths do women leaders bring to design and implementation in local climate action? We know that there are lots of solutions going around, and climate change, as wide as climate change is, or or as adversely impactful that climate change is, we understand that if we design solutions, we might be increasing the impact of climate change, right? If we do not do the solutions or craft the solutions the right way. So, in your knowledge, how do you think? What are the unique strengths that women leaders bring to design and implementation of local climate action? Over to you.
Hi, Bimba. I feel like this is something I've responded to a bit in what I did earlier, and also something that Chingwe spoke very broadly about. So I don't know how much I could actually add into that, except to say, and I know this would very badly build on what Chingwe said in the end, that perhaps we should look to a time where we're only talking about leaders and not just women leaders. But at least for us, in terms of our communities, gender differentiation is actually something that we are still trying to address in terms of the disparity, in terms of the inequality. So I think some of the things that women bring is definitely the gender lens, because most often if you don't have women in the room and you have men making the decision, then you actually run risks of men thinking about how to do things their own way without actually thinking of not just equality, but repercussions and some of the implications that decisions usually have on women, simply because women have less social rights, have less economic rights, and even in legal procedures based on our traditional laws and some religious laws, you find out that women are always at a disadvantage. So I think one of the key things for me is the fact that women are able to be to streamline gender rights when it comes to these discussions. The second is, as I've mentioned earlier, it's definitely about a holistic thinking in the way that women are able to look beyond sort of immediate issues and immediate challenges, but design for impact holistically, so that we're not only looking at solutions at the bare minimal of what's in front of us, but we have a sort of full picture scale of how things can be cross-cutting and cross-sectoral. So I think these are some of the two key things that I see when I look at women. But of course, there are also things about social cohesion and strategic communications. Naturally, when you have women in a space and in a more physical space, you reduce that risk of thinking someone is here to dominate, more so because of sort of the soft nature of women. So women are able to ease tensions and can also be agents of deliberations and negotiations in issues of security or disputes. So these are some of the key things that I see where women are playing and can play integral roles when it comes to designing local solutions. Thank
Thank you
you.
so much, Nureen, for that. So I would also like to add Chinwe. I know you've mentioned that Chinwe has touched on this. I just wanted her to expand more on this, because I like what you said concerning women are agents of negotiation. So they should be able to like have that skill and the venue or avenue to be able to like have that room to actually be that people. I mean, be that person that they should be in terms of negotiating for many of the solutions that they want, or negotiating on policy implementation, or even negotiating concerning funding to ensure that they give access to other local communities to spur action. So I would like Chinwe to also expand more on this, and would like to hear your perspective as well. Chinwe, can you hear
So,
us?
okay, yeah, I can hear you. So, what was your question again?
So the question was, could you, I mean, expand more on what Najrin has said, because Najrin has been building off of some of the points that you've mentioned, and also your conversation also built on some of the points that Najrin has mentioned. So I want you to like, give us more expansion on how women can play a role, because you've already buttressed it in two ways. You said dispute resolution and emotional intelligence, and Najrin has brought it further to being agents of negotiation. So we basically want to hear your perspective on the question.
On the role that women can play, right?
Yes, on the role that women can play.
Okay, I just like she actually started to say that we've actually touched on all of these things. I think that one of the key things we need to look at are the barriers. And so, like I said, when I work with a framework, so after we have defined that, we start to look at what are the needs. What you run like a needs assessment, and so we start to look at the barriers. So, what are the barriers that have stopped women from actually having access to make this impact? And so one of the key things that stands out for me is the gender stereotype. So you find out that there's this social construct, especially in many cultures, where women are being viewed as less capable or less knowledgeable, especially in technical issues and technical fields. And I feel that this bias has actually prevented women from being taken seriously or being considered for these leadership roles. And I believe that if we can be able to address these root causes and address all of these things, then women can begin to take up spaces and make a lot of impact in the space. And so this means that we need more of support networks to support women in carrying out on building their professional networks that would help in advancing climate leadership positions. Yeah.
much for the insight. So now I would like to bring Esther. Esther has joined us. Thank you. So I would like to bring Esther on stage where she'll be giving us a brief on her topic. Then we'll continue the conversations with our guided questions. So, Esther, I hope you're there. Hello, Esther. Oh, you're muted, so you have to unmute so we can hear you. Still muted. uh, you're still muted. If you can just kindly unmute, and then I think we'll be able to speak. But pending while she does that, I would like to just say I've introduced Esther before she introduced.
Hi, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear. It's nice to see your
Yeah,
beautiful face this morning.
thank you.
So
Good
we've done good afternoon. It's morning here, so good morning, good afternoon to
afternoon. Good
everyone
morning.
who's just joining us. Thank you for joining us across the LinkedIn platforms. We've been having conversations for the International Women's Day. I'm here. We're introducing our third guest, and she'll be giving us some conversations concerning empowering local economic action. Women at the heart of sustainability. So, Esther, over to you.
Oh, thank you so much. Sorry for joining late. I had like a lot of I had another engagement and I thought I could beat Lagos traffic, but today Lagos traffic won. Um, so yes, the topic is about empowering women at the heart of sustainability, and for me, I think that empowering local climate action, sorry, women being at the heart of that of sustainability. First, I like to mention that the sector in terms of sustainability and environmental sector, climate change, and all of that is a growing sector in Africa. And I'm really very like impressed to see women, take the lead in that sector. For instance, the sector where I work in recycling, recycling is emerging in many African countries, and Nigeria, a developing country as well. You would see women at the heart of recycling, and here is why. Um, in in Africa, recycling and environmental issues is not seen as an issue that everybody feels that they should just be interested in. I don't know if that makes sense. So for many people, what they're really thinking about is how that they can solve like economic issue, because that's like the major issue that we have in Africa, right? For instance, if we're going to do an election and then a government comes and start telling us that, oh, I'm going to make this city greener, I'm going to help us reduce our carbon emission, I'm going to ensure that all these climate crises are reduced. Honestly, trust me, nobody's really going to understand what that politician is saying, or nobody's even exactly going to vote for that politician, if you get what I mean. So what is more important to our own people is economic empowerment. And then you would see that from time immemorial, women has been at the forefront of economic empowerment. So you see a lot of single mothers, a lot of young women taking action to ensure that they provide food for their family, provide feeding, schooling opportunities for their children, provide accommodation, and all of that. And it is with this same drive that they have come into the environmental and sustainability sector. So, in recycling, for instance, you will see a lot of women that are waste pickers that pick recyclables. And what they do with these recyclables is that they exchange it with cash with different organizations. I'll tell a story. Iyadane, I tell her story so much. But apart from Iyadane, there are other women. But this particular woman, Iyadane, she stays at Lagos Island. She has just a very, like a small, not a shop, like like in Nigeria, those people that will put like a table in front of somebody's main shop and just sell like petty things, right? That's what she does. She couldn't even she cannot afford a shop, and then she heard about recycling with recyclers, and then started bringing her recyclables to recyclers. um by 2021, she had bought a land with the money that she collects from recyclers. As at then, plastic was not even so expensive. The price of plastic was still at 20 naira per kilogram, 40 naira per kilogram. And then recyclers usually would pay at the end of every quarter. And then each time we pay out incentive or pay out redemption. This woman will cash out like 500K, but in like 4 months, right? And with that money, she had gone ahead to buy a land in Ogun State. She started building a house, and now she's going to be a house owner. And this is someone that could not earn a living. For me, it's not just about telling the story of how she has become economically, better from where she used to be, but also that how she now she now ensures that this plastic do not end up in the drainages, and also helps also for her. She understands before, when we go to Lagos Island and then we do like a cleanup activity, is usually very, very annoying, for lack of a better word, because you clean up a location today, by the time you go there next week, that place looks like nothing was done there. And that was because there was nobody that was coming to pick up these recyclables. But today we have people that are picking it up in form of like waste pickers, and even like in founding organizations like Recyclers, for instance, was founded by a woman, Bilkis Adebiyi Abiola. She had come back from MIT and had this idea to give incentive for recyclables. Today in Nigeria, in the recycling sector, we also have EcoBanta Rita. She had done the reverse vending machine, the first of its kind in Nigeria. I think it's also the first of its kind in Africa. And that reverse vending machine is what we see. Although a lot of people will share videos of like a more digitalized one abroad, but that is like what we see abroad. We have it here in Nigeria, where you can go to a machine, put in your recyclables, and then you get cash back for your recyclables. That for me is, seeing that the role that women play in making sure that recycling is standing in Nigeria, in making sure that sustainability is happening in Nigeria. And it is driving like local climate action, because if, for instance, we manage our waste very well, we ensure that the landfills are properly managed, which is already getting filled, by the way. We ensure that they are properly managed. There will be not so much so much what's it called now, so much CO2, and all of those chemical reactions that would happen, that would affect the ozone layer, and thereby affecting like climate change, changing weather, and all of that for each and every one of us. You see that women are at the forefront of sustainability. You also see people building careers in terms of starting a career in sustainability. People are doing things. We have Jennifer Uchendu, who is the founder of Substi Vibes. Substi Vibes is like a community of young people that are driving sustainability action. And she's not just driving sustainability actions in terms of conversations alone. She has also gone ahead to start the conversation around mental health, and how around climate and mental health, how like our mental health is being affected by climate change, and how people are being affected, and giving people the help that they require or that they need for them to be better. So yeah, I would say that in today, celebrating International Women's Day, is actually very important that we see that women play a vital role in the recycling sector. I would say that at the heart of sustainability are women. If you look at top, I work with organizations. I partner with different organizations, and in managing those partnership, I can see clearly that, for instance, in Sahara Group, there are women. Yes, I mean there is like about two or three. There are about two or three women leading their sustainability team that I know of. In Unilever, I know that the on the team, there's a lady on the sustainability team. I know that at Nestle, women, all women, right? So majorly women. So looking at this, you would understand that as women, we're beginning to take our space, and I would say that we should keep it up, we should continue, and we should keep driving, because at the point of ensuring that there are local actions that are being taken towards climate mitigation, women are the heart of it, and whatever we do really counts. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that very insightful session. I like the fact that um, each of the guests are building up on some of the things that we've been saying, and from Nazrin, Chinwe to you, we've been having like lots and lots of insightful conversations that are bringing each component together. So I like the fact that each and every single one of you are not just looking at it from the broader perspective, but also you've done so much work in the local perspective, like having a top-down approach. And we know that for the upper side, we women, you, the other ladies you've highlighted, so that Chinwe, Jennifer, such as Rita, such as Nashvin here, and such as Chinwe, they've been doing like immeasurable work. And so now we want to step it down a notch. We're looking at it from the local perspective. Local women who necessarily do not have these opportunities, and how we could bring them up to ensure that they are attaining the spaces that they should at the local level. Because three things are affecting women at the local level: one, governance issue; two, inclusion issue; three, empowerment issue, which has to do with either funding, access to information, and every other component that each and every one of us has highlighted here. So I'm going to go over to Nazrin, then I go to Chinwe, then I go to you. The question now is, at the local level for local women, how do we ensure that these women are active participants in governance issues? Because this is very critical. I also work with local women, and I understand that they might not know that this is climate change or know how to navigate their way. But when you ask them questions, they're able to give you some of the resilience or some of the components that they've been by to ensure that they're able to navigate their way through these adverse impacts that they're facing. So how do we ensure local women contribute to governance, climate governance issue at their level? Over to you, Nashrin.
Hi. So your question is, how do we ensure local women contribute to governance?
At their
That's
level.
your.
That's right. Exactly.
Oh, how do we ensure they contribute to local governance? I think we need to provide the platform or the framework for that to happen in order for them to contribute to climate governance or any other initiative or intervention that we're presenting to them. And I'm going to sort of speak from personal experience of one of our projects. So we run this large-scale restoration project here in Kano. Well, we don't call it tree planting because we've been able to plant more than 20,000 trees. So it's definitely not tree planting. We call it restoration. And we've been able to restore more than 200 hectares of land. In fact, last week we signed an MOU with the Jigawa government, and this year we're scaling to 100 hectares. But for us, what makes this project very important, very impactful is not the fact that we are planting trees, because everybody can plant trees. I think for us, it is the model embedded in this initiative that makes it very important. So we work alongside the government with this. It's a partnership. They give us the land, we restore the forest. That's how it works. But obviously, there are also forest communities, right? The forest is most often not alone. There are inhabitants there that you have to engage with, you have to mobilize, and that you, in most cases, have to actually employ to support the work or engage in a level of strategic community building or relationship building. And one of the things that we have as part of our model is every year we lease out the land to farmers. Because obviously we're restoring and the land is there. So in order to ensure effective land management, every year during rainy season, we bring them in, we engage in a level of training, we provide incentives, and then we lease the land for them to use the land to plant crops that they can harvest. So this in turn provides food security, economic freedom in a way, but for women, it also sort of brings a bit of social equity between them and their male counterparts, because it also serves as a source of income or extra income to them. So obviously, as you can see, we had to create the framework and then provide opportunities for the women to come in and contribute to the program, to come in and embody the program or the framework for them to be able to contribute to the project or to be able to contribute to broader climate governance. So again, I think it's more of a matter of are we developing structures and initiatives that would enable local women to contribute to climate governance or more generally climate action or climate adaptation, and this program definitely does that. So what we do is if in a year where we have 10, 15 beneficiary, we ensure that at least 60, 70% of those are women, but we definitely bring in men into the fold. But then we've been doing this for about 3 years, and along the lines of thinking for long-term sustainability, we started dabbling around the idea of how do we ensure that even when these projects round up, because it is going to round up one way or the other, but how do we ensure that we leave these communities feeling like the communities have something to actually look back to that outlasts the life cycle of this project? Because at the end of the day, it's a partnership with government. We're running it for about 3 to 5 years, but we still have to hand back these restored lands to the government because the land in essence belong to them, and the government can decide, oh, we no longer want to work with this community, we're going to close this off as a conservation zone and nobody is going to be engaging. So meaning those people whom we embark on those trainings, we lease the lands to annually would or may lose access to those incentives or those opportunities when we finally close down the project. So we started thinking around the line of how do we ensure, like, again, it outlasts the life cycle of the project? And then we came up with this model of, instead of us doing all of these things on the public lands that we're engaging with, why don't we have this new model where we go to these communities, we offer to fence some segment of the land, we provide them with solar. There is this just different incentives, solar panels. There's also this solar pump, farming tools, seeds, and all that. So it's almost like we take the project to them instead of us running the project on our site, asking them to come. We decided to take the project to them, and this is something that we started this year, and we've just started implementing. But the idea is that at the end of the day, again, local people contribute to climate governance needs to take the efforts of entities or interventions like the ones that we're doing to actively include women in the process. Because when we had this idea of taking it to them, the first beneficiaries we had in mind was women. In fact, all of our beneficiaries for this particular scheme are women, because we felt, at least in our communities, women are usually not only underrepresented, but they're below the scale when you look at the social cultural practices, the economy, when you look at basic rights. So we wanted to feel like let's provide this to them so that they can have a level of financial capacity to be able to take care of themselves one way or the other. So this is something that is ongoing. We haven't reached the stage where we would say these are the results, but the bottom line is these women are being trained, and we actually partnered with Center for Dryland Agriculture. It's a whole department in Kano, funded by Barrow University, Kano, funded by World Bank. We also have some interns who are doing a master's degree coming in, because we're setting up a research dome to carry out research there. So, but the bottom line is what we've been able to do is provide them with this opportunity, with the incentives, but also engage with them through strategic capacity building. First of all, the capacity they would build in terms of organic farming, agroecology, or agroforestry would stay with them. And not to speak of the fact that we've been able to fence some aspects of their farms, protecting them from animals, from anybody that would really jump in. And we are sort of creating an incentive for sustainable livelihood development, where they don't really have to wait every year for them to grow crops and benefit from it, but they can do this year round through the scheme that we've provided. It is essentially like a greenhouse. That is essentially what it is. It's like a greenhouse where they can be able to grow crops year round. eat if they want, serving as a source of food security, but also sell to generate income. But at the end of the day, what we're looking at is the end goal of having that level of financial independence with your own land, with your own farm, and for it to be able to definitely outlast the 5-year life cycle we have for the initial project. So I think for me, again, the bottom line is that in order for us to ensure women contribute to climate governance, especially local women, not us as professionals, we have to create a framework for that. We also need to actively engage them. There needs to be a level of inclusion. And we also need to sort of have an understanding that true impact, actually, real impact takes time. You cannot derive impact within a month, 2 months, a year, 2 years. It takes a whole life of its own if you're actually looking for real results. And when pushing for solutions or thinking about climate adaptation, I think it's very important for us to also understand that it takes different dimensions. Most of the time, for us having a really broad experience working with local communities, it takes a lot of different kinds of strategies because the sort of mindset we have in sort of carrying on this discussion now, it's certainly not the same mindset that we have when we go to local communities. It is different. In fact, we use local languages, the communications, the materials, everything is translated in local language. And we also really approach with the thinking that people might not actually appreciate, understand, or even know what we're talking about. But the way that we operate is in building relationship first, ensuring that there is that trust-based relationship. People understand that we're not just coming here because we want to tick off some KPIs from our own projects, but that there is real interest in driving long-term strategic change within those communities. So I think, of course, it takes different forms, and there are different ways. I'm sure my colleagues would agree that people engage at the local level, but I think at the core of it, when we talk about women contributing again to climate governance, we have to enable the space, we have to create the platforms for local women to be able to do that. Because at the end of the day, what we think are priorities, pressing issues may not necessarily be for them, even if they are experiencing it one way or the other. So I'm gonna stop here now.
Thank you so much for that very extensive conversation, because during your conversation, you also touched on the finance aspect of it, which was supposed to be our next question. But then, in the mood of having this intense conversation, I really like the fact that you've touched on the various aspects and ensuring that they are not just contributing, but they have the right capacity to do so. And the right capacity for local women is empowerment, because that's the only way they can be stable enough to ensure that they are contributing where they should, because if they are not empowered and the spaces are there, they would not know how to contribute their quota in the climate conversation. So I'll quickly bring Chinwe on board to also give our insights on how these local women can contribute to climate governance at the local level. Then we'll go over to Esther. Over to you, Chinwe.
Okay, thank you so much, Bimbo. So, I'm looking at this from the government aspect. And so I'm looking at how can women be included in this leadership role. So just like Nazrin shared her experience, for us, one of the good things that I have been able to see and learn is by working closely with the Director General CEO of the National Council on Climate Change Secretariat. That is a woman, Dr. Nkiruka Maduekwe. Over time, working with her, I've been able to learn how we can begin to get women involved in climate change policies. And one of that is during the time we were to go for our COP, that's the Conference of Parties, UNFCCC Conference of Parties. The letters we had sent out to our key stakeholders included that women should be part of the delegation. And we were requesting for at least three delegates from each MDAs. And we ensured that each delegation had a woman being represented. And also, when you look at it from the angle of negotiations, we realized that during the time of training negotiators for this conference, we had ensured that women were particularly represented. and nominated for this training. And also, if you look at our staff strength at the National Council on Climate Change Secretariat, you realize that we have more women than we have for the men. And so you find out that we are already imbibing to ensuring that gender and women are well represented. And also, if you look at it from finance aspect, I know that Nashvin touched a little bit on finance. Looking at the fact that one of the barriers that women face is lacking access to funding. And we realize that from the council, by the leadership of the DG, that the lack of gender-sensitive criteria in funding process has limited women from having access to this finance. And she also touched really right on the issue of capacity. And you realize that climate change issue is actually very new to a lot of people, especially those at the local levels. And so you realize that one of the ways we're actually working on ensuring that women at the locals begin to get involved is by communication and advocacy. So in January, the Director General, CEO, National Council on Climate Change, who also doubles as the special presidential envoy on climate change, took her team to the field. We actually went to the communities in the Niger Delta, to look at the mangroves, to see these communities. And we ensured that women were actually spoken to. We actually also realized that some of the entry points to ensure that women are part of this action is also speaking to the men. Because like I said earlier, one of the barriers is the gender bias and the stereotype that we already have. And so you realize that for you to break through, you have to also pass through these men. And so we found that we had to get through these men to ensure that they understand the essence of having women at some of these activities and the actions at that level. And I think so for me, it's just trying to say generally that we are doing our own bit to ensure that women are well represented. And one of the example that we also learn from how women can learn from is the example of Christiana Figueres, the former executive secretary of the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. You realize that under her leadership, we were able to adopt the Paris Agreement, and this provided us with a strategic direction on how we are going to deal with these climate change issues, and which brought about the NDCs. So I believe that women should be given a place at the table. We need to begin to look at some of the barriers and begin to tackle some of these root causes. We need to begin to speak to these men. We need to begin to speak to these people who feel that women do not have as much knowledge as, there's also this bias and stereotype that women are quite emotional, very emotional, and cannot handle or take very tough decision. But you realize that by being a caregiver, like I said earlier, we have been able to embody a lot of skills that allow us have critical thinking abilities, strategic thinking pathways, being able to manage and deal with people's emotions, their emotional intelligence, being able to multitask and prioritize policies and things and all of that. So for me, it's just dealing with the issues at the root, dealing with the barriers, dealing and tackling the root causes on why women have not been included over time in these leadership roles. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the very insightful session. Like I always say, or like I've been saying, I like the fact that this conversation is building up on each other so people can follow up the conversation. So I'd like to call Esther to also share her perspective on the conversation.
Yeah, thank you so much, Nazri and Chingwe. I mean, what's left for me to say, right? So I'll just pick it up from what both of them had said, and you would see that with what both of them are doing in their separate organizations, there are actually steps that have been taken to bring women to the table, right? And Nazri had said something that real impact takes time. That's my tagline any day, anytime I try to preach or talk about policy or any of these things, because we need to understand that as Africans, real impact takes time. And for you to achieve something, you really need to wait. We have to be patient. So even for women, for those of us that are here now, it took a while for us, and we're not even halfway to where we're going to, right? We're still on that journey to getting to the table. We're not even yet really on that table, right? So now bringing in like local women into the context. When I first started working in the recycling and waste management sector, I met incredible women, from waste speakers to entrepreneurs, community leaders, and they were already solving like climate challenges without formal recognition or governance structure supporting them. They were doing these things, and it didn't matter if anybody was seeing what they were doing or anybody was recognizing what they were doing. And for me, that is really key. Knowing as women that, sometimes you don't get the applause, but you just get going to do what you have to do. And that's what I say to women at the local level when I meet them. So when I meet like a waste speaker, for instance, so for instance, in recyclers, we have women that um, 99% of the women that work in our sorting section where our materials are being processed are women. And every time I say to them that, and most of them, for lack of a better word, can also be classified as, I mean, you can say they are, I don't like to say local, I can say they are unschooled, right? So most of them are unschooled, like meaning that they didn't have like the kind of education that we had the privilege to have. But you would see the passion in them doing the work that they did. You would see how much they had brought, how much they bring into the work that they are doing. And every time I say to them that it doesn't matter if anybody sees you, it doesn't matter if anybody recognizes you, but what's more important is how much effort you have put into the work that you are doing. And for me, that is key. And I feel like all women, local, on any level, should put in that same energy into anything that they are doing. Put in the energy knowing that either I'm giving a seat on at the table or not, I'm going to do what I have to do to ensure that this problem is solved. I'm going to do my own bit to ensure that this problem is solved. And that is what, different people are doing. That's what Nasri is doing, for instance, with the women and the farming and afforestation. That is what Chingwe and the leader she's working with, that's what they are doing to ensure that you don't have to we don't necessarily have to be at the table, but giving women opportunity, for instance, to go for the COP, to just by attending, is already like an opportunity for them, right? So I feel like giving women opportunity is very, very important. I've also met women that live on the dump site. They face a lot of environmental hazard daily, yet their contribution to sustainability remained overlooked. I mean, is not recognized. People do not even send them. People see them and they're like, this person is smelling, this person is dirty. But for them, they are adding to sustainability, they are adding to preserve the environment. If they do not collect those materials will clog our gutters, and then there will be flooding. There will be flood every other year. If they do not collect the materials, even at the dump site, those materials take years for them to decompose. And that is a big issue for all of us. So, and for me, this experience has shaped my understanding of climate governance. If we are to achieve like sustainability, like true sustainability, I think that we must ensure that local women are not just participants but decision makers in shaping climate policy. And the way that they can be is also by talking to them, asking them, taking their voice and trying to put their voice out there. So, for instance, the conversation that we have with them, for those of us that have opportunities on some days to speak, do we really speak about these conversations that we have had about these women? I think that that is really very important. The women that I have met, whether we speakers or recyclers, they have taught me one thing, and that is the fact that climate governance is not complete without their voices. If we must have lasting solution, we must do more. And the way that we can do more is how we can build the table with them. And building the table with them sometimes might not necessarily mean bringing them to the table, because that in itself might take a while. But while in that process, understand what they are going through and bring that to the table, or at the least present that to the people that are on the table, who we are sure can have that conversation for them. So I'm challenging anyone that is listening to this today. How can you use your platform, your organization? How can you use your influence to ensure that local women are shaping climate policy? How can you ensure that the desires of these women, the things that they will say when they get to the table, how are you ensuring that with your influence, you're using that position to really speak to them? Thank you.
Hey, thank you so much for the I don't know why I'm echoing, but I hope you can hear me. I hope you can hear me now. Is it better? Okay. Thank you so much for the very insightful conversation from Nazreen, taking it up from the immense work that South Africa is doing to ensure women are empowered, to Chinwe, who has taken it from the policy and governance side, from the government perspective, and also to you, who has also bring in the perspective of telling the stories of local women. I think these are three most powerful components that would not only allow local women to be at the center of climate change governance, but also be included in conversation that matters most. So my last question would be, what would be your advice to every single woman listening to this conversation? What would be your advice to these women to charge them forward, to not only focus on themselves as champions of climate change, but also ensure they're telling stories of their immediate community, and also ensuring that they're amplifying some of the innovation, either traditional innovation, local innovation that these women have built around ensuring that they can fend for themselves, they can train their children through school, and also they can live alongside the adverse impact of climate change. What would be your advice to these women? We'll start with Najrin because Najrin has to drop off to go somewhere. She also has an event that she's launching today. I hope I can be a part of it. So, in any way you want us to support, please let us know. This is International Women's Day, anyways. Women supporting women. So, we'll start with Najrin, then we'll go over to Esther, then we'll wrap it up with Chinwe. Thank you.
Uh, so I think I'm going to keep it very simple to say that for me, speaking from experience and based on what I have seen, I think the best way to sort of create those support systems is for you to actually build a very strong community around you. Like people always ask me, how do you do what you do? How do you know all of these people? How are you? And my question is that I took my time and I built a community that works for me. That's just it. I really took my time to ask myself, what do I want to do? Where do I want to be? With whom do I want to get there? And then I built my community around that. I don't have one single useless person around me. Everybody around me has a purpose. And it's very important for us to understand that you need to have purposeful people around you. Somebody that can speak about you when you're not in the room, somebody that can defend you when you're not in the room, somebody that really would shout your name in halls that you can never even imagine showing yourself there. Somebody that will be like, oh, I heard this opportunity for funding. Let me recommend this person because I know she's incredible. So I think that this is what I have found very useful, and this is what have made me who I am today. I think this is also what has sort of made me very confident as an individual, because when you build a community, you're also building security for yourself, right? Because these are people that you can also go to speak about things that are bothering you. It could be emotional things, it could be mental things, but you're also creating a safe space for yourself, knowing that these are people that I know have my back no matter what. So I'm saying that with building a community comes with the purposefulness of what people can serve for you, but they could also serve that immediate need of having allies, right? to trust, having allies that you can fall back to when things get back. So I don't really want to drag much, but that's in it for me. And with my community, I've been able to access so many opportunities, so many things that I know that individually I would never have been able to do it alone, because I'm the kind of person that appreciate sort of collaboration. I appreciate, I'm not a big fan of friends and stuff like that, but my community, it's my go-to. If I don't have my community, I am nothing. And of course, it is cross-sectoral, it is diverse, it is people that are even older than my parents and people even younger than my old ones. So, and it is people from all over the world. So I think for me, when you sit and ask yourself who you are, where you want to be, you begin to think about who you want to take this journey with and who would also outlast you. Because I'm the kind of person that always thinks about the future, and also thinks about, if, for instance, I'm not at surge, would the work be meaningful? Would it be still be relevant? So then you also have to cater to the thinking that if you drop off and die, you are running an initiative. Do you have a strong just saying, would you have a strong support system to sort of come in and say, we're gonna continue to run this? Because I do have a very good friend in Doni. She and I feel so sad saying this, especially today. She's a South African. She's one of the best people I have ever encountered with in my life. She's just an incredible soul. May she rest in peace. She died about 3 4 years ago, and her initiative still goes on, and this is because of not just the structure, that the strong structure in place, but the fact that she had a strong community to jump in and say, this is not going to end with her not being around. We have to ensure this continues. So yes, this is all from me. I don't really have very smart wisdom stuff to say, just this.
No,
And
that's
regarding,
okay.
yeah, regarding our program today, we're launching a campaign called Power Women Campaign, and what we're doing is trying to highlight the underdogs of climate action. Essentially, some incredible women across Africa that are doing some really amazing work that never make it to mainstream media. So we're trying to highlight works of those women, trying to celebrate them and stuff like that. So we started yesterday with a snap session. We're launching the campaign today, and then we're going to take up a period of, I think, a couple of weeks to run through the campaign. So yeah, I'm gonna email all of you guys with the campaign brief. So hopefully you join us and you promote it online. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Najrin, for that very insightful session. We are looking forward to the campaign material so we can support as best as we can. And thank you for the insightful conversation on collaboration, building a strong community that outlive ourselves. And that's what you can get when you build that kind of community. So, Esther, what would be your own contribution to ensuring that people are, or women are doing things the way that they should?
Yeah, thank you so much. I mean, anybody that knows me knows that I'm very big on partnerships and collaboration. And for me, you can't do anything in life without partnership and collaboration. And so Nazri has spoken to that. So I would just advise. I don't like to advise people. I like to advise people, but not advise like this on social media. Like, come online and advise. What do I know? So if I were to advise every woman in climate change, I would say to every woman that is working or aspiring to work or contribute in climate change, whether as an advocate, a policymaker, a scientist, you're a researcher, you're trying to start an organization, or you're a community leader, or maybe you're just, maybe you feel like, oh, I'm just a secretary in this climate organization. um Here's what I'll say to you. Number one, your voice and your story is very powerful. Your perspective is very powerful. And that is just it. Your voice is powerful, your perspective is powerful. You don't need permission from anybody to lead. You don't need permission from anybody to speak up or to take action. Your voice is powerful. So either you're leading an initiative or you're the background, you are powerful and your perspective is powerful. Your story is legit, legit. Like, like very legit. I would also say to every woman, I'll say start from where you are at, or wherever you're at right now is fine. It's okay. You don't have to have a big organization. You don't have to have a big position. You don't have to hold a formal role. You don't have to be the next what's it called now? Anything. You don't have to be anything, any title to create the change that you want to see. You can start from where you are. You can start from where you are. It's Tunde Onokoya who always says that big things comes from small places. So start from where you are. It doesn't matter where you are, start from where you are at. I started my climate journey when I was in secondary school. I had written an essay on climate change and I felt like the world was going to end. And I just wanted to create change. I just wanted to change that narrative. I just wanted to see the possibility of us having like another world to live in, even if the world end. And that was why I went to study environmental management. And today I am grateful that I took that step. I didn't have like so much. And that would lead me to the third thing. While you're starting from where you're at, build build on your knowledge, keep learning. Climate change is evolving, and so should you. Invest in learning, in whether through online courses, mentorship, or real world experiences. What knowledge does for you is that it opens your mind, it opens your brain, it opens you up to what can actually be, it opens you up to perspective. And the way that you can only have innovation or rethink the things that you're doing is when you open up your mind to knowledge. So be open to knowledge, take short courses. No course is too much. It can be you taking you a course as simple as a LinkedIn course and as high as going to Harvard. Whatever it is, keep learning, keep building. You know, like Najria has also said, I would also say find your circle, find your support from other women, find people that would guide you, people that would be with you, people that would make the journey easy, because there are days that this journey is going to be rough. So, look for those people if you don't already have them, and also be that person. Be resilient and take up spaces. Be resilient, take up spaces, integrate your purpose into whatever you are doing. Keep pushing. For every woman in climate change, you have a role to play. Don't think that your impact is small, and don't think that what you're doing is too big. Whatever it is that you're doing is very important, and
Thank,
we value it. Thank you.
thank you so much. So we'll quickly go to Chinwe to quickly give her advice on what she thinks. We have a few minutes, so I crave your indulgence here. So over to you, Chinwe.
Okay, thank you so much. Just like Esther would say, when the first two speakers have spoken, what else do you have to add? However, in addition to what they have actually said, I think that the first step is finding purpose. You need to first find purpose. For example, climate change is actually very vast. And so what you do in life is only ever as good as why you do it. So why do you do it? What is the purpose of what you're doing? So like I actually said, climate change is vast, and you have to decide what aspect of climate change you want to focus in. So you can hear from the speakers today. Esther is into, I think, recycling, that circular economy, and I think Najrim is into, I don't know, probably something that has to do with agriculture also. And then myself is focused on the policy aspect. So you need to find a purpose. You need to know what aspect of climate change you want to be focused on, and then find purpose in that. Build on it. Just like Esther have mentioned, your voice is powerful. Start from where you're at. Build on your knowledge. Stay resilient and take up spaces. And that is because you will find your true place when you allow your light to shine. So you start from somewhere and you let your light shine. And I tell you, before you know what's happening, your purpose begins to unfold. And the journey of 1,000 miles begin with single step, and every action creates ripples that can change the world over time. And that's my own advice. Thank you.
Thank you so much to our wonderful guests for being here. It's been a wonderful 1 hour session. that we've had so far, from listening to the policy side of it, to the governance side of it, to the finance side of it, and also bringing together how interpersonal relationship and interpersonal conflict can also play a role in ensuring women are included, and also going over to what you can do as a young individual to ensure that you're scaling climate action as well as contributing to local community women, because these are two sides of one coin. You are doing action, local women should be able to benefit from it. So today is not just about people who are educated, people who are doing the work at the topper level, but people who are also at the lower level, the local women who are filled with immense local knowledge that we can tap from. And from local knowledge backed with advanced technology, we are going to be spurring climate action the right way. We have until 2030 to achieve our goal, and we all know what that is as at now that we're in 2025. So we have 5 years to achieve something that has been going on for about 30 years. I would say we're not getting there yet, but at least there's been little progress, and each progress is very, very crucial. Like Nazria said, change does not come in a year, change has its own life cycle. We've seen great people who have made changes, and their changes came in 10 years after, 20 years after, not even while they were alive. So the goal is to ensure that we're creating solutions that outlive us. And I'm so excited that each and every single one of you has touched on the conversation. To our guests listening, thank you so much for being with us for the past 1 hour, 12 minutes. It's been a long time, and I'm glad that we all have learned a lot. So thank you so much, Chinwe, Nazrin, and Esther, for being here. We look forward to having you come on board next time to help support women, to help build on some of the policies, community resilience projects that we have. And thank you, and thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.